Hello, everybody. Hey, Ed, how you doing? I was just about to make a joke that since I'm here and no one's here, I was going to sing "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot" until somebody showed up, but you're here already, so saves me having to bust out the deep voice. Mr. Nope, you're here too. Good, good, good. So we're going to have a good conversation tonight. The first thing I want to do is, have you guys gotten over to see Spider-Man yet? I am curious. You know, no, I don't want to sing. That's just mean. Yeah, if I told you guys that I saw a movie this weekend that's expected to be over $1 billion and starred Tom Holland, Zendaya, and John Bernthal, you couldn't say for sure which movie that is, could you? Since we've got two. And collectively in the domestic box office, the two of them broke $400 million. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, Spider-Man Brand New Day, over 327 million. No, 357 million. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Mr. Soap says, no, not yet. Hey, Thomas, good to see you. Waiting for the girlfriend to get back from vacation. Nice. That's always kind. So I will talk about it a little. I will try not to do spoilers. And when I do, I will let you guys know. Because a lot of interesting stuff. But we got some other stuff to talk about first. Quite a few things going on. I will tell you two things. One, here it is hot. It's currently 94 degrees. I live in an old house that doesn't have great insulation, so our air conditioning struggles. So I can feel the perspiration on my back. It's not necessarily pleasant. So I'm going to go as long as the heat can. I can deal with the heat, but also every once in a while my computer goes too hot. So if I disappear, you guys know why. And probably won't be back. So hopefully I just turned it on. So hopefully it'll be good for the length of the show. All right. So first thing I want to talk about has nothing to do with pop culture movies or superhero movies, Marvel, DC. I want to talk about baseball. And the reason I want to talk about baseball is not because I think you guys are baseball fans. You might be, you might not. It's that something's happening, and it's going to likely be a huge topic going forward. And for the people who don't know baseball, but want a quick understanding of what's happening, I'm going to provide that. Now, you guys may have heard that the Los Angeles Dodgers have been doing kind of well. Yeah, they've won the last two World Series. They won one not too long ago. And they are considered the favorite to win this next one and three-peat for the first time since the Yankees over 20 years ago. And Ed nailed it right. Last night they made a trade, gave up three of their minor league prospects for probably one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in baseball. A guy named Tarek Skubal. Weird name. He is the last 2-year Cy Young Award winner for the American League. He's a pretty good pitcher. He joins a Dodger staff that has Yamamoto, Otani, Blake Snell, another two-time Cy Young winner, Jason Robleski, Tyler Glasnow, and Roki Sasaki, who may be playing baseball with the largest glove ever played. If you guys haven't seen, he's got this yellow glove, and since he's gone to the bigger glove, he's doing better. Not sure what that means, but he uses almost like a mango-sized glove, and is doing definitely better. So now, Skubal was coming to the end of his contract. He had 2 months left. And the Detroit Tigers knew they weren't going to be able to re-sign him for long term because he'd want too much money and they didn't have the money. So they took the trade. And you're going to hear people online saying the Dodgers are killing baseball, that they're ruining it, and that they're cheating, and a bunch of other stuff, and that there's likely going to be a lockout next year and we won't have baseball in 2027. Whether the Dodgers are cheating or not, first thing, they're not cheating. The Dodgers are doing nothing that's not within the rules of baseball. So, now, the Dodgers do have an incredible team. Because besides that pitching staff, you've got Edwin Diaz. They just signed during the offseason, one of the best closers in baseball. They also signed Kyle Tucker, who was the hot prospect, hitting outfielder prospect during the offseason. They have Mookie Betts. They have Freddie Freeman. They have Max Muncy, Tescaro Hernandez, Enrique Hernandez, or goes by Kiki. They've got Tommy Edmonds, Dalton Rushing. Just Will Smith, Andy Paez. They've got an incredibly stacked lineup, probably one of the best hitting lineups in baseball. Up until like a day or two ago, they were also leading in baseball. They're currently like 10 or 11 to be competitive, but they're not really being competitive because they're not spending. Then you have the middle of the road teams who don't quite have as much money as the Dodgers, but they're upset. So that's what's going on. It's going to be a battle for whether or not baseball should have a spending cap so that big teams aren't able to totally outspend the other ones. But spending floors are going to come up, and that's where the loggerhead is going to hit. Because these big teams aren't going to want to be capped on what they can spend, and the smaller teams aren't going to want to be forced to spend more money than they have to. So, yeah, that's going to be your argument next year. And especially if the Dodgers win. If the Dodgers lose the World Series, then there's an argument to be made against it, and it may keep the thing going. No, I didn't go anywhere. I've been talking this whole time. Huh. No, I've been going this whole time. Interesting. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about with baseball, was just giving you guys an idea of what the argument's going to be so that when other people are talking about it, you have a good idea. So, I didn't know I had frozen. Okay. Let's move on. Like I said, I don't know if I'll be able to get a whole show, but let's go on. And we're going to talk about the 2 cancellations that came up this week. 2 projects that we thought were moving forward. One was Wonder Man Season 2, and the other was Booster Gold. The Booster Gold series was being written and showrun by the guy that created Our Flags Mean Death. So that was the big thing. And he posted that this is not going forward. His version. Now, that doesn't mean Booster Gold isn't going forward. It means his version is going forward. Wonder Man had actually had contracts signed, had a writer's room built, and they were about to go in and start, and they pulled the plug on it. And, of course, the other thing was word that Mahershala Ali will not be continuing as Blade in the MCU. So what is going on with all this? Oh, wow. I did not realize I was gone that long. Didn't even notice. I just kept talking. That sucks. Okay. So what's going on with all these cancellations? The bottom line is Marvel and DC are kind of looking at what's going on, and they're trying to figure out, hey, Thomas, they're trying to figure out if what they're doing is working. Now, you look at Spider-Man this weekend, and that's working. You look at Superman last year, and that's working. Some of these TV shows are working, but they're not sure. So they're kind of back in that early phase where they're trying to figure it out. And I think also they're going to kind of restructure what they're doing going forward. Now, I don't know if DC is going to as much, but I think Marvel is. I think Marvel has to look and go, okay, what is going to make us money and what isn't? Because the bottom line is TV shows, movies and stuff, they've got to turn a profit, and they've got to figure out what's going to make people come see it or turn on Disney Plus. So they seem to be getting away from the TV shows as much. I think they might end up doing specials more so than series. We'll have to see how Vision does. But I think they were surprised by how well the Punisher's one shot did, and the Werewolf by Night and the Guardians. They all did really well. Hey, Kat, how you doing? Yeah, somebody said I was offline. I'm not sure. I didn't even notice I went offline. My computer was fine. I didn't do anything. I just kept talking, and suddenly I was back, and I didn't know I was gone. So yeah, I think lost my train of thought. So yeah, I think Marvel is going to have to kind of rethink what they're doing, and I think that's why they put a stop to Wonder Man. And I think we're going to see other projects do that as well. It's like the big announcement in Hall H turned out just to be a Ghost Rider movie in Black Panther 3. And the reason I think that is because that's all they're comfortable with saying right now. They're going to, I doubt we're going to get one of the big slates anymore. Because when you do that, you're committing to stuff and things that are out of their control. Look how much backlash they've gotten from the Kang Dynasty. Had they not announced all those movies way back when and just started building like 2 years in advance, people wouldn't have much to say. But when they lay out 10 years worth of movies and suddenly things aren't working or, things aren't going well, then you get all these online stories about how this got canceled, that got canceled, this is struggling. It's like, how many stories are we hearing about casting of X-Men? They haven't announced an X-Men movie. Feige has said that the X-Men will be the next phase. But, Variety and Deadline announced over the weekend that Emma Frost is going to be played by Samara Weaving. And that's the big casting news. And if you've seen Spider-Man, There's somebody in there that applies to this as well. So it seems like they're starting to build an X-Men cast. Sorry, something fell. So what are they doing? And that brings up the question, since one of the X-Men gets introduced in Spider-Man, are we getting a reboot after Doomsday and Secret Wars? Why would they introduce characters now and then have them pop up, then reboot? I mean, that seemed kind of weird. So Kevin Feige said something that he said we weren't really rebooting the MCU. And I think that's going to be the key. I don't think they're doing a full reboot. Spidey is my favorite. Glad the movie's kicking it. Yeah. That movie is doing very, very, very well. Even with a leak. If you guys haven't heard about this, but a full pretty good quality copy of the movie got leaked and was being shown on Twitter or X. So you could just, suddenly pop in and you've got the full movie in front of you. Now they're said to have taken that down, but how many people saw that already? How many people is that going to keep from going to the theater? Because it's like, well, I just saw Spider-Man. I don't need to go again. So, Spider-Man will be credited for saving the MCU if Doomsday doesn't do that well. If Doomsday does well and Spider-Man's not in it, then it'll be fine. It'll be the Avengers saved Doomsday, or the Russo brothers saved MCU. But so yeah, that's pretty crazy about the movie leaking. But it's hard to tell what they're doing right now because, like I said, if Kevin Feige says they're not doing a full reboot, then introducing characters now makes sense. But what are we going to get? I mean, Secret Wars was kind of a reboot, at least the later Secret Wars. There's always the earlier Secret Wars, if you're a comic fan. And all that really gave us was a new Spider-Woman and Spider-Man in a black suit. And an idea that Mole Man was way more powerful than we thought he was. Mole Man? No, Molecule Man. Excuse me. So, yeah, that's I don't know if Marvel knows exactly what they're doing, if they're scrambling. But I don't expect, like, D23 is going to come up. And I don't think we're going to get the big slate anymore. I don't think we're going to get the huge announcements of an entire phase. Because, like I said, it just works against them. It doesn't make sense to do that. And it worked against DC, too. I mean, how many people are spending more time talking about what movies and series aren't coming out from DC than the ones that are? So it says Toby is in at the Iron Spider, which is interesting how Toby got the tech unless they cured Doc Ock. You're saying that Tobey Maguire is in Doomsday, or he's in Doomsday in the Iron Spider costume? Yeah, I mean, that could just be from a different Earth. I will be very happy when the multiverse is done. I think it's a little, I don't want to say too much for the audience, but I think they've spent so much time focused on the multiverse and not on just telling good stories. You know, my favorite movies from Marvel over the last phase were stuff like Shang-Chi and Thunderbolts, and, that were focused on just the characters in the movie and not the overall universe. And there's only one movie that I really didn't like, and that's Thor: Love and Thunder. So, I liked most of the other movies for one reason or another, but yeah, I think they could have been better if they were a little more focused on character and a little less on building the world and building the next event. And I hope that they go back to that. Spider-Man Brand New Day is very much character driven. It is Spider-Man and the world around him, and the people and things that we see in it are the people around Spider-Man. It makes sense. It's not just throwing people in crazily. There's one or two cameos that you're like, okay, but overall, it's a Spider-Man movie, and that's what's important. Ed says, I'll be honest, the Doomsday movie has me nervous. I don't know if they're trying to rush into a new Endgame a little too fast, but we'll see. I don't know. I think what they're trying to do is take all the threads that were out there and try to wrap them up so that by the time we're done with Secret Wars, we can move forward fresh. And I think Marvel admit that they had some missteps in this phase. This is not going as well as they had hoped. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about Brand New Day. I am going to do my best to not do spoilers, but I'm going to put that on just in case. So I've seen Brand New Day, and I think it's my favorite Tom Holland movie. That said, I was not a fan of No Way Home like everybody else was. To me, it was a lot more fan service than it needed to be, and a lot less story. So, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying I didn't like it. I didn't like it as much as the general populace. I think Marvel made a mistake not following up on Werewolf by Night special. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Marvel has put out a lot of interesting characters and have done nothing with them. In the early days, they did Iron Man, then they did Hulk, then they did another Iron Man, then they did Thor, then Cap, and then Avengers, and then they went back to those characters and increased them as they went. But in this phase, they created Shang-Chi, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, Photon, or whatever they were calling her, Werewolf by Night, Wonder Man, Ironheart. They have all these characters that they do these one-shots on. They introduce Mephisto, and then we never get anything on him. What's going on with Moon Knight? She-Hulk, yeah, Man-Thing. Daredevil we kind of keep going with, but Miss Marvel at least and Photon popped up in the Marvels, but why haven't we seen Shang-Chi? Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is great. They should have immediately rolled into a sequel or combined him with someone else. Maybe Moon Knight, have the two of them working a parallel case, something. But they became so focused on this multiverse story that they kind of lost control of the narrative. And then it got even bigger screwed up because of the actor playing Kang. I can't think of his name right now. But, great actor, not a very good person, it seems, or at least because of the legal problems, they had to change. So, it's just kind of a mess. A third Loki season. How cool would that have been? Here we are getting the third leg of the WandaVision series. How many years later? So I'm hoping that what comes out of this is Marvel becomes more focused. But like I said, I think Spider-Man Brand New Day is a good sign because, again, they're focused on Spider-Man. Yes, Punisher's in there, but he services the story. He's not just a wild, Jonathan Majors, that's who played Kane. He's not just a wild random cameo. Black Widow being in there makes sense in the role she plays. Stuff like that. Sadie Sink's character, everything kind of makes sense with what's going on. And they set up a good villain for the Mutant Saga. So from that point of view, I think Spider-Man Brand New Day is exactly the kind of movie they needed to do. I think it was really well done. I think it was well directed, well written. There are some really great scenes. There's a relationship between Spider-Man and Punisher which surprises me. Because it's not necessarily one we're used to in the comics, but it works really well, and it's probably because John Bernthal and Tom Holland are real friends. They've known each other since Tom Holland was 17. They were working on a movie together when both of them got auditions for Marvel. John Bernthal videotaped Tom Holland's audition for Spider-Man and convinced him to do the flip and to do the extra stuff that helped get him the part. And Tom Holland filmed John Bernthal's audition for the Punisher. So there's this history there, and that comes out. And they're both their same characters, but you also get this interaction between them, which is great. It's the kind of thing you want to see in a movie. So I don't remember the name of the movie they did back then, but they were also just in the Odyssey together too. But let's see. John Bernthal, Tom Holland movies. Pilgrimage was the first one. Came out in 2017. About 13th century Irish. It's an Irish historical drama. And Holland plays Brother Diarmid, and Bernthal plays a mute crusader. So John Bernthal doesn't even get to talk in the movie. So funny. But yeah, so they're friends. And that comes across in the movie. They're knocking heads. They have different opinions and different ways of handling things, but they have that shorthand, that brotherly shorthand that really comes across well in the movie when done right. They introduce a character that, if you're an older Spider-Man reader, Jean DeWolf. And if you're an old Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man reader, you know that's an important name. It's a cop that he was friends with and working with. And in the comics, she gets killed by Sin Eater, and it turns into one of the most dramatic and intense Spider-Man stories ever. I believe by Peter David. It is one that I remember reading when I was still young, and it lasting with me, it making an indelible mark on me. So the fact that they introduced that character, I think, is pretty interesting. And who they cast, is it Lisa Zayas from The Bear? One of the cooks on The Bear. She's married to, all the names are escaping me today. She's married to the actor who used to be on Dexter as the detective, the heavyset Latino. Yeah, I know I'm not helping here at all. Tom says, it's funny. Since you lost signal, whatever, the chat quit working for me. It's stuck on Eddie saying, hi, I'm going to reload. Okay. I'm seeing your posts, Thomas. Ed says, I heard the Odyssey got leaked on Twitter, but hadn't heard about Spider-Man. Yeah. Spider-Man got leaked, and it was up for a good 24 hours before they were able to squash it. So, and the quality was supposed to be fairly good. I mean, like the sound and everything. If not, it didn't come across as, you're watching somebody holding a phone in a theater. It was actually much better than that. So, the reports. I do not claim to have seen the video. Just saying. David Zayas, yes, thank you. So David Zayas' wife is the one who plays Jean DeGrolf, and she is terrific in it. It's a small role, but that's the thing, is that there's a bunch of roles in this that fill out the universe around Spider-Man. He needs help. He goes to Dr. Banner. He knows he's got a history with the Punisher now. Calls him Frank. He's got, connections to the Avengers and stuff like that. And it all makes sense in the movie. And it feels like a Spider-Man comic. In the same way that Superman felt like a Superman comic. Because those are the things that we would see when we were reading comics as a kid. That, Spider-Man would be swinging by and there'd be Daredevil. Because they existed in the same New York. And that's the kind of feeling you get with this movie, is that the MCU exists. Most of the time we spend a lot of these movies going, well, why didn't the Avengers show up for this? Why didn't he call Captain America? Why didn't he do this? And that doesn't come up in this. This just comes out as there are people who show up and you go, yeah, because they live there and the other people wouldn't have had time. And so, yeah, I really like Brand New Day. Again, it's definitely my favorite Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. It might be my favorite Spider-Man movie. But that's in part because I know everybody loves Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock. And I think it's a good movie. But for me, I look at that and then I look at the first Spider-Man movie with Green Goblin and I'm like, it's the same movie. Same beats. Same ending. All those things happen. They're almost the same. So yeah, I really liked the movie. Enjoyed it greatly. And I understand why it's making hand over fist money-wise. Currently, worldwide, it's sitting at $927 million. That's the estimate for opening weekend. Only Endgame beat that. At like $1.4 billion, I think. Some insane number. And then domestically, $357 million. That's almost Endgame numbers. I think Endgame was 359, and there's a chance that once they get the final numbers, it could pass it. So, and it probably doesn't hurt that there's a heat wave because people are like, well, to hell with this. I'm going to the movies. I'm going to the air conditioned movies. So it's a good, but it's, and while it's a good Spider Man self contained story, there is setup for the future. But it's set up that if you don't realize it's set up, it doesn't matter. That's the thing is a lot of Marvel movies of late have felt like they were more setup than they were story. This was story that just happened to have setup. Let's see, I think the perfect casting of Alfred Molina as Doc Ock made Spider-Man 2 beloved. I know wasn't my favorite original. Yeah, see, like I said, I think Alfred Molina was great. And even when he came back, he was still great. But my problem with it is, like I said, it's the same movie as the first one. They really did just do it again. So, again, Mary Jane gets kidnapped, da-da-da. It's the same movie. So, it's good, but I don't think it is as brilliant as some people seem to think. So, how many of you know who Sadie Sink is playing in the movie? It's probably one of the worst kept secrets. It's all over online. Everybody seems to know. I just want to know, does anybody not know who she is? Yeah. See, I think her character really makes what's going to happen after Secret Wars and stuff really throw it up in the air. Why introduce that character now if you're just going to reboot? And they spent a lot of time with the character. So, and I thought she was great. I thought it was really well done. So, all right, guys. You know what? It is hot. And that's most of what I wanted to talk about. I am looking forward to Reacher coming out soon, Lanterns coming out soon. I started watching Batman the Caped Crusader. So far, I saw the first episode and their version of the Riddler, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? We shall see. But yeah, I think Lanterns is going to be great. I'm really looking forward to Reacher. I finished Dungeon Crawler Carl 2. I've got 3 loaded up, but I feel like I could use a different type of book in between. So I may listen to something else first. Got a hair. No, I can't get Lisa to sit down and watch it. I'm going to have to force her to finally do it. But I do have her reading Dungeon Crawler Girl now. So I got the first book on paperback where I listened to everything. She likes to read physical. So I just ordered the first book and handed it to her, and she started it. So, yeah, you got to convert them. I'm not where everybody else seems to be with Crawler Carl. I'm not obsessed. I could do 2 or 3 books and then come back for book 3. There are still series that I definitely like more, like Dresden Files, stuff like that. Dungeon Crawler Carl is what they call lit RPG. It's, if you're a gamer, you will absolutely love this. The short version is intergalactic corporations use different planets for basically reality television. They go to a planet, they kill most of the people on it, they leave like maybe a million, and they force them all into dungeons, and they have to fight their way through a dungeon level by level. And we follow a particular guy named Carl who had gone outside at that moment in nothing but his boxer shorts, his tank top, and his leather jacket because it was cold to retrieve his ex-girlfriend's cat, who she had not come back to get yet. And in doing so, the world changes the moment he's outside, and he ends up in the dungeon with the cat, and it all goes from there. So that's the basis for Dungeon Crawler Carl. It is a very funny book. The audio book is awesome because the guy does a lot of different voices. The cat becomes talking, and because where most animals would go in the dungeon as a pet, she ends up becoming a crawler as well, Princess Donut, and it follows them. And there's just a lot of stuff you guys would like if you game, but they have followers, they have views, they have to do interview shows in between levels. They don't really control, they get loot boxes. They don't really control what happens to them. They, what's in the loot box kind of dictates. And the loot box are usually geared to make you miserable. I don't want to give anything away, but I do recommend the first book. But this book is huge. Not only has there already been 8 books in 6 years, but it's been optioned by Seth MacFarlane for a live-action TV show. So this is going to come to TV, but I think you guys should check out the book. It's on Amazon. There's a paperback version for not too much. If you do Audible, I do highly recommend the ebooks. Because, like I said, the guy doing it is Jeff Hayes and has such a range that you think it's a full cast. His voice is so all over the place. He does Carl like this, He sounds a little bit like Patrick Warburton. Come on, Donut, we need... God damn it, Donut. And then we get to Princess Donut, and she's like, Carl, this is untenable. I cannot possibly do this. So you get these range of voices all over the place, and they're a lot of fun. So, is this like a spinoff of Vox Machina? No, this is its own thing. What's his name? I don't remember the author's name. He's done a bunch of books, a few different series, but Dungeon Crawler Carl is his most popular. And it's not just, the people that I see are falling in love with this. It's all over the place. Matt Hawkins, the guy that runs Top Cow Comics and has also written a bunch of books like Think Tank and the Tithe, stuff like that. He became obsessed and read all 8 books in like 3 weeks. So the guy who does the audiobook is voicing Donut for the TV show. Yes, he is. Because that voice was just too unique. They're going to cast everybody else, but yeah, his voice, and he seems very involved in this as well. Matt Dinniman, that's the author. Matt Dinniman. So, yeah, I recommend the series. I recommend maybe, my favorite is still Dresden Files, especially with James Marsden doing the narration for the audiobooks. Marsters. James Marsters, the guy Spike from Buffy. But, there's a couple others that are in this range. But this is a really good series. So Matt Dinneman, Dungeon Crawler Carl, and just be ready if you're on social media. Once you mention it, you're going to see so many posts about it. People are talking about it like crazy. So my adventures on Dexter came up, huh? Cool. That was a fun moment. All right, guys. It is hot. I think I'm going to wrap that up here. Apologize for cutting it just a little short, but yeah, check out Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'd love to know what you guys think. And I'll have to find Ed. Send me a link in Facebook to your show from last night. I want to see what you guys were talking about and how my name came up. So I will see you guys next week. Hopefully it'll be cooler and I can talk longer. But yeah, I'm just dying here. So you guys take care. Have a good week and see you soon. Bye now.